Hello, today we are going to look into EC2 Linux instance. The agenda of today's topic is Introduction to Linux, Linux versus Windows, instance state or instance check. First, what is Linux? In our home, we have our own desktop where we use Windows OS. Likewise, there is also another OS called Linux. Linux is nothing but a free and open source operating system which was developed by Linux Torvalds in 1991, which is based on the Unix principle. We can say it in simple term as a smaller and modular core program. It is like a kernel program or the program which is which could be further developed into an OS. For example, there are several OS which is developed based on the Linux kernel, the core program. Let us discuss the applications of Linux. The first one is web servers. Many of the web servers are hosted based on the Linux OS because it is reliable, it is customizable, and it could be easily flexible. The next one is cloud computing. Linux OS serves as the backbone for many of the cloud computing services like in AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure. Next, the well-known Android mobile OS is developed by the Linux. All around the world, many supercomputers are designed based on the Linux OS. The next one is IoT device. Many of the smart devices that we use in our home, like TV, remote, which are developed by the Linux. Next, we are going to look the difference between Windows and Linux. The first feature is interface. In Windows, it is graphical user interface, which means that when we open our desktop, we can see there are Microsoft, Google Cloud, and so many apps are there. But in Linux, we can only see the commands. We can only ask by commands if the app is there or not. That's why it is called as command line interface. You couldn't see any of the applications over the over the desktop. So you need to use it through command. The next one is remote access. We can use a remote desktop that is actually inbuilt in our desktop. We can use the remote desktop to connect virtually to the cloud servers. But for Linux, we can either connect by EC2 instance connect or PowerShell or PuTTY. So in Windows, we are connecting through remote desktop. So we need to use remote desktop protocol. We, we need to use RDP protocol to be accessed in the network settings. And for the Linux, we need to use SSH protocol to be included in the network settings. The last one is username. For Windows, we have inbuilt username, which is administrator. For Linux, we have EC2 user. The next one is instance state or status check. When we have launched the instance, there will be 3 pass 3 status check or 2 pass 2. This actually means the AWS or the Google Cloud or the Azure is actually checking the instances whether it has the capacity to handle whatever we are going to deploy in it. The first one is system status check. This us- the first one is system status check. This usually checks the underlying physical hardware. For example, whether the server is okay, whether the power is done, when the network is okay. If it fails, that is none of a mistake in our side. It is from the cloud provider. The next one is instant status check. This actually checks the underlying OS and the software, whether it is capable of doing all the work that I'm going to deploy in it. If the failure means that is OS crash or high CPU usage. For example, we have deployed only 2V CPU, but we are going to use a resource of 4V CPU, then it couldn't handle, right? So the next one is instance status check. The last one is instance reachability check. So for the network settings, we are going to enable some of the protocol which is going to be allowed by the firewall to get into the web application that we are going to host in the web server. So for that, it is going to check the reachability check, whether it is capable of whether it is capable of including the SSH protocol or RDP protocol. It checks on the firewall whether there is any misconfiguration are there, so on and so on. And also it checks the boot issues. Thank you.